March 2024. Notice of this meeting, in accordance with Wisconsin's open meetings law, ran at the March 16th issue of the Waukesha-Freeman, and the meeting agenda has been posted on the LCCA website as well. It's the front entry doors at both school campuses. Please let the roll call show that we have present. We have our head principal, Margaret. We have Christina, Tom, Brian. We've got Randy and Taryn. We have Stacy joining us via our Teams uplink, and Skylar is pending. So can you let us know if he chimes in? Okay, thanks very much. All right, LCCA mission. We like to repeat this at every meeting to help keep us focused. Our mission is to train the minds and improve the hearts of our young people through a content-rich classical education in the liberal arts and sciences with instruction in the principles of moral character and civic virtue. And in light of that, would you please stand with me as we say our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're moving to the approval of tonight's meeting agenda. Everyone has had a chance to review the agenda tonight. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve today's agenda?
I'll motion.
Would somebody like to second the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Stacy. It's been moved and seconded that we adopt tonight's meeting agenda. Any discussion? We'll move discussion. All in favor, say aye, please. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We have an agenda.
Okay.
All right. The second part of our meeting tonight is our Citizens Forum. Every monthly open board meeting will provide a section called Citizens Forum. This provides an opportunity for stakeholders of the school, that's you, to offer their views on any topic. We ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes per person, and comments under this section will not be responded to by the board in this open session, nor be the subject of board discussion or debate. The board president may respond later to those who provide public comment. And we have a couple people who submitted. Let's start with Dan Lennington. Good to see you.
Yes, so I'm Dan Lennington. I have two sons here, 7th and 8th grade, and I just want to make 2 comments. One is a pet peeve I have about the meeting and the Citizens Forum, is that one of my previous jobs is that I ran the Office of Open Government at the Wisconsin Department of Justice. I'm one of the authors of the Open Meetings Manual. You'll see my name on there. It's not a violation of the Open Meetings Law for members of the board to respond to public comments during a Citizens Forum. As long as the Citizens Forum is put it in the notice, you can respond. And I think that the policy of the board probably came, I would assume, from Elmbrook, which has a much bigger board, much more well attended. And so when you have a smaller, more intimate setting like this, I think it's more appropriate for board members to at least offer a brief comment, because it allows parents to feel like they have been heard and that their comment is not going into a black hole. And so I'm just here to say there's nothing illegal about for you guys to respond, discuss, even later in the agenda, if you talk about the new building, you could respond to a parent. So that's just one pet peeve, and other parents have asked me to talk about that. So just wanted to lay that out. Second, I wanted to echo Aubrey's comments from last month. I know there was a communication about that if the new school is built and it's not built with capacity for everybody, that we would move the younger children to the school. I would like the board to really think carefully about that. I assume we have the most attrition at this school with the older kids. There's a struggle, there's always going to be a struggle for these next few years to offer a full high school experience for especially 9 through 12. The 12th graders are going to be applying for college soon. They're going to go to their admissions interview. Hillsdale has admissions interview. My son went through it, and they're going to ask him, what was your high school experience like? And I wouldn't want LCCA to get the reputation of being a K through 8 school. And I think without the proper support in putting those kids, those small band of kids in that new building first, with, you know, chemistry equipment and physics lab and stuff, giving them that experience rather than relegating them to what they would perceive as a downgrade. Those kids would perceive that. I think prioritizing them, when we have such high demand in a waiting list, K through 7, K through 6, you're gonna have that demand, but you need to encourage these 9 through 12s to get this high school experience. I think one way would be to move them first if we have to do that. So those are my 2 comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Erica Urban.
Hi, I'm Erica. So I actually want to run on from that as well. I put that down at 3 comments, and one of them was the one campus, and the only thing is that it never actually dawned on me, and when Aubrey said that the last time, it was a big light, and I'm sure you guys have all thought about that, but in general, I think that it would be, I back up everything that Dan says too. I think that it's something that you should really push for as the high school students to have their own campus to get used to. But I don't need to, he said it so perfectly, and she brought it up so perfectly last time, so I don't need to chime in on that. Second of all, I don't know if you saw Coin Wars, the numbers came out today. I wanted to let you guys know, especially the newer board members, the parents here care so much about this school and the fact that Bethany Goff just hit it right out of the park with this. Over $23,000 was raised in the last 2 weeks. So that is, for being such a small school, the amount of love that these students and teachers and parents have for this school, I want you guys to know that no matter what you throw at the parents, we will go at 110%. And I just want to thank Bethany. I know she's not here, and I can private message her all I want, but that's pretty incredible. Those numbers are just amazing. And last, but I feel the most important, is the fact that the last discussion you guys had, you talked about the survey. And I think it's super important that you guys continue with the survey. I have a marketing background. I don't do it right now, but I think it's very, very important that you guys do ask the families. With the numbers that you had in the response, don't ever feel like you're bothering the parents. The parents want to tell you what they want, and I'm sure you hear plenty. Parents want to tell you what they see could be better and what is great. And I think that when you guys said that you wanted to do it at the end of the year, I think that's completely backwards. As far as if you think of the school as a business, which I know it's not, there's way more heart into this too, but when I think about it as a business, you want to know what is wrong, and then you want to correct it as soon as possible. So I think that when we did it this year, it was the perfect timing. You have plenty of time to change the hiccups and to focus on the good things, so that you get the parents' input earlier in the year versus at the end of the year. People will drop out, people will leave because they haven't been able to voice their opinions, they haven't been able to answer the survey, and I think, you know, we saw some people leave mid-year, and I think if you give them a voice, you might be able to keep families longer. Clearly, I don't see any major issues, as I would say it, but there are families that really would like to speak earlier, so I think you need to reconsider when you're doing that survey, but definitely keep pushing. I know that it's a money thing, but at least one survey, you need to do it. You need to fix what is broken before it gets to the point where your consumer, the families, are gone. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay. With that, we conclude the Citizens Forum part of the meeting tonight, and thank you for both of you, to both of you. Now we move on to our consent agenda, reports and items that appear regularly in our meetings. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll motion to approve.
Anybody like to second Brian's motion?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, we'll move to adopt tonight's consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay? All right, the ayes have it, and the consent agenda has been adopted. Next, we're going to move to the approval of minutes from our last meeting. So meeting minutes from February 21. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve? Well, we don't for that?
No, and that was not your fault. It should have said minutes.
Oh, so we segue to.
But sorry, we're like. still
We're
moving.
transitioning. There's a torch, and right, it's still
No.
here,
No,
but we're moving
no,
it
it's
here.
okay, no, so basically approval of minutes, or we should still discuss, did anyone have any changes to the minutes from the last?
Yeah,
meeting?
any
Did
issues
any
or
issues or changes
questions
in the
or
last
changes?
month's minutes? Now would be the time to discuss that, if not, then we just move forward.
I thought Stacy did a good job with minutes. For everybody's benefit, board docs minutes are in the meeting that occurred, so you wouldn't find them in tonight's location on board docs, but you have to go back one board, one spot, you'd find them in there.
Is everybody move on?
Okay, segue to our school leader report.
Thank you.
Margaret.
You each have a copy and have had a chance to peruse through. I'll focus on a couple areas of highlight this evening. The first being, we've had so much to celebrate, and I'll echo the accolades to TLC for Coin Wars later in my report, but I wanted to make sure I also celebrated our donation drive, in which the entire school community gave shampoo and conditioner and body wash and deodorant and socks over the course of several days. And we ended up delivering over 5,000 items to Lake Country Cares, and they were just blown away by the generosity of our community and shocked at the amount that LCCA contributed to their organization. So it was really fun to see the kids and families get involved with that, and we intend to kind of maintain an opportunity like that annually if we can. The other exciting event over the last month was the first LCCA College Fair, in which several different school representatives were present, and we turned the sanctuary / lunchroom into a college fair booth setup, and the 9th graders had an opportunity to walk through and speak and converse with the different representatives, and then the 10th and 11th graders as well. And the feedback from the college and university reps was that they were so impressed by how cordial and articulate our students were. So I was very proud of that compliment. And I think the students enjoyed it as well. They asked lots of questions, took lots of materials, and got a sense for some of the opportunities that might be available to them post-graduation. So that was exciting. Moving through the report to the enrollment section. Since we met last, we ran the March 1st lottery, so you can see on page 4 of my report the numbers and information as I pulled it in order to submit this report to you. Last week, I pulled information. No, thank you. And you can see the offered seats per grade level, the numbers of declines or withdrawals or rescinds, so people that didn't even act on their offer or declined their offer. You can also see the applications in progress, so those are the counts of families that have accepted and are now working their way through the registration process. And then you can see the count of the wait list at the time that I pulled those numbers. We ran the lottery with 252 applications, but we have received additional applications since then. So as of March 12th, we are at 262 total for the 24-25 school year. And as you know, that enrollment opportunity onto the wait list, having missed the lottery, remains open as we continue into the next school year. So that number is likely to potentially grow as to a total of interested applicants for the 24-25 school year. As you also know, enrollment numbers are in flux until we kind of finalize things come October. So we will keep abreast of registration and any withdrawals that we have, families that make changes over the summer. We'll offer then seats to fill those spots if that's the case, and then have some more solid numbers toward midsummer and certainly some finalized numbers by October. 'Tis also staffing season, so employee agreements for the 24-25 school year will be sent in the mail this Friday. Faculty and staff receive those over spring break and then have until the Friday after we return, which is the 5th of April, to return their agreements for the 24-25 school year. Moving on to the financial report, page 6 of my report. Some updates from the business office. Our workman's compensation audit was completed in February. We did transfer some money to a money market mutual fund, as we discussed in previous board meetings, and CDs with Edward Jones. We met as a retirement plan committee for our quarterly review in February, and the overall summary of that committee meeting is that our sponsor plan is doing really well and our participant engagement is positive. We have some really good news from the business office as it relates to the medical coverage and insurance plans that we offer employees. We are transitioning from United to Anthem, and by making that change beginning April 1, we will save 5.5% of cost on current participants without changing networks or doctors or availability. But it was one of those make the decision, pull the trigger now to get locked in. And when H&I representatives came to speak to the faculty and explain the change that would be necessary, they reported that that same day they had 3 other clients who all received a 50% increase on their plan costs. So we're really pleased to be able to have a 5.5% decrease on current participants. Also of note, Mrs. Kari, LCCA controller, attended a conference in February and just gained even more education and understanding about the life cycle of federal funding, the ins and outs of IDEA flow-through, some grant guidance, some Title III funding, WISE data, finance, and the specifics of Act 20. She found all sessions to be very informative and felt really equipped with more information and more understanding in all of the elements of her position. Looking at the current income statement, which is at the end of your packet, our revenue, our per pupil aid was received this month. We also had some revenue from IDEA flow through. The enrichment classes fees for second semester rolled in, as well as donations that were received through general donations were all cataloged this month. Our expenditures, were general liability insurance payment was made this month. We had some gala expenses as we prepare for that event, including the One Cause software. We purchased some additional concert risers. If you were at we used some concert risers at the upper school winter concert and just realized that we're going to need more. So we purchased some more to be prepared. And then we had some Skyward training expenses also in the expenditures. Our current budget versus actual, everything revenue categories are trending as to be expected in the middle of the third quarter. Some student fees are higher than budgeted. Special education state aid is trending a little higher than budgeted at this point. We had some of the textbook and workbook expenses that is just remaining consistent. Most of the purchases for this fiscal year have been completed in that line item. Looking at bank reconciliation report, you'll notice that the February bank statement reconciles to the ending balance of a little over $2.3 million. Most of the deposits were comprised of the general donations, the SPED state aid, and the user fees that are rolling in for the 24-25 school year. And many of the checks that were processed in February were just to pay general operating expenses, gala expenses, as well as the advertising. Some of the invoices for the advertising for enrollment came in the last month. That concludes my finance overview. I just wanted to touch on a couple special events that took place over the last month or kind of currently. But we did host parent-teacher conferences at the end of February, early March, and our attendance was 52% of West students had a parent attend a conference compared to 49% last winter conferences last year. And then 82% of East students had a parent attend a conference compared to 91% of winter conferences the previous year. Both of those statistics are very strong, and we're really pleased with the parent turnout for conferences with teachers. The other item of note is, I mentioned it last month that we were hoping to host a talent show as an event in the upper school, but unfortunately, due to lack of student interest, we did cancel that for this year. But the other item to celebrate is the Legacy Committee Coin Wars. Super successful, and the parent volunteers who oversaw that were just so enthusiastic and so committed to pulling off the event as success, and so easy to work with and fun to have around. And they did a really great assemblies at both East and West today to sort of unveil the grand total and all of the benchmark rewards that the students have earned. So it really was a great deal of fun for all of us at school, and also I just want to express sincere gratitude to the parent community for their generosity in that event. It's really, really outstanding. Additionally, I'd like to draw your attention to some of the marketing and fundraising highlights for the past month. We are, Mrs. Kendra Leversky, as you know, came on as our marketing and communications manager, and she's just doing a phenomenal job. We are implementing some new software. We had some really great additional enrollment marketing this year with event giveaways, email blasts, website pop-ups. We're in a couple different media outlets and productions in the community, newsletters, and we've had more of a Facebook, online, social media presence. She's doing a really great job. She's also created a profile on niche.com or niche, depending on who you are and how you read it. And we're asking parents to post positive feedback there. It's the market leader in connecting schools with students and families. So many of the prominent private independent schools have a profile on that site, as well as many of the local area schools. So it's important that we also have a presence there. We have finalized the Liberty Gala marketing plan. Save the dates went out, ticket sales rolled, the Gala website is up and running, and so things are moving along in preparation for that event. And as of March 13th, 148 tickets had been sold for that evening. So we're very excited about all the progress that has been made there. And that concludes the highlights of my report.
Okay, board, any discussion or questions?
Thanks, Margaret. Just two questions. For enrollment capacity for next year, is it essentially the same as capacity for this year, just adding upgrade?
Yes, except we're looking to pull and fill some of the seats that were not filled this year.
Okay. So we had, it looks like, from the new enrollment, there was 93 new students to us for the student body next year, 51 of those being kindergarten, the rest spread out.
That's
Am
right.
I reading that right?
Mhm.
Okay.
One of those was rescinded though, so we're down to 92 if you look at in progress, because one ninth grade seat was declined and there's no one on the wait list.
So in the preliminary budget presented last month, we were 598, so basically it'd be like 500-ish existing students and the rest new students. Does that sound right?
Well, enrollment right now is a little under 550, and that 598 is 2% less than expected enrollment, because we budget conservatively, so we always put the 2% number for potential loss over the school year. So really the expected enrollment, if we maintain these numbers, is closer to 615.
Okay.
But that's not reflected in the budget because of that 2% conservative plan.
Margaret, the additional 10, you mentioned that came in after this.
Yes.
Are those just waiting list then?
Yes. So once the lottery is run, anyone who enrolls or submits an application is simply added to the grade level wait list in the order that the application is received.
I'm so sorry, I know we're not supposed to talk now, but it's not actually linked online.
You
We've
have
all
no
been,
access
we've all
to
been
it.
trying to upload it, and that form you're all looking at.
Oh, the leader report?
It's, yeah, it's not linked
None of
on
the
there.
actual ones are there for us to see this week.
Sorry.
Thanks for letting us know.
It'll
We'll
be
make sure,
posted right after.
Okay.
but for future meetings, thank you.
Okay. Regarding the good news on the insurance, that's great news, actually. So we're looking at the preliminary budget, then when you presented that last month, that was prior to knowing, so there'd be
Yes.
additional savings.
I think our assumption on that, Mrs. Curry, correct me if I'm wrong, but our assumption was a 15% increase in cost based
Wow.
on HMI's advice when we were budgeting. 15 or 18? 15.
That's good news. Yeah, that number is pretty sizable. We're spending almost 500,000 between medical and dental, so a 5% reduction versus a 50% increase is a big number, $100,000.
Right. It won't always appear as 5% because we'll take on new staff, right? So 5% on current employees, so it will still likely be an increase simply because of new hires. But yes, right now the budget does not reflect the savings.
That was all the questions I had.
So this college event seems neat. So Carthage, can you tell us who the other 9 colleges were who came and what feedback you had?
I'm not gonna remember them all off the top of my head, and I'm sorry for not including that. Wisconsin Lutheran College, I believe, Ripon, UW, Eau Claire, Carroll. Hillsdale came the next week on their own. I'm
Carthage
sorry.
is your fifth.
Carthage, I'll have, our college counselor email you the list, I don't recall how.
We could put it in the minutes too.
Say that?
We could put it in the minutes too.
Sure.
For the leader report or something, yeah, thank you.
Any other comment or discussion? I have one thing. I'm psyched to see all the marketing stuff going on, and it's clear, and this is a refrain from the last couple of years. Yeah, it sounds like you're trying several things to see what's going to work and resonate. Yard signs is a great example. Some markets they go gangbusters, some not so much. So it sounds like you're trying to get a baseline with that, which is excellent. So it's cool to see all this marketing stuff going on because, of course, that's going to help drive enrollment. And you know, we talk in communications a lot. Is the challenge credibility or is it awareness? And from everything I've heard, it's we have an awareness issue of anything. So it's great that you're getting the word out.
One other question, Margaret, on the staffing projections, I know you said you went to Hillsdale and had some good conversations. I was just curious sort of how that's going. Do you feel you're gonna be able to fill all those positions that you were looking to fill this year?
We are ahead of the game on some of our needs for next year and still in conversation with some of the Hillsdale students that I spoke with while there. And then we've also had some really great response. Our openings are posted on our website, also on WeCan, which is the site that educators use to know what schools and districts have positions. So we are in the thick of interviews, and I'm very excited about maybe even having all of the positions filled. I don't wanna jinx it though. Maybe having the positions filled by late June, which would be incredible that we would be all set before July. So hopefully,
Good news.
yes.
I heard through the grapevine that there are potentially 2 people in the Chicago market who found out about those jobs and were considering, maybe they're in the mix, potentially relocating to work here and applying for them. It's pretty cool. Anything else? All right, so let's segue to treasurer's report, Ryan.
All right, some of this gets redundant month to month, so if I'm boring you, sorry. The cash on hand at the end of February that you see in the report actually about $750,000 higher. Margaret had mentioned they had moved some funds to a CD. So we have approximately 750,000 moved into CDs, so we're actually a little over 3 million of cash on hand at the end of February. At the projected cash on hand at the end of the year, we're looking at about 2.3, which, if you remember the report from last month, that would be about 100,000 higher. So every month that's gone by over the course of the school year, we've increased our expectation of cash at the end of the school year by about 100,000. So my quick synopsis on that is, we're 2/3 of the way through the school year, 8 of 12 months. On our expenses, we're at 50.3%. So 50.3% versus being 66% for the school year is about 24% below budget on expenses. At the end of January, so prior month, we were about 17% below budget. So we continue to trend on expenses. Again, some of them may shift into future months, but over the course of the school year, we've been trending better every month. So that's the quick explanation. Revenue is a contributor to it also, although it's not as significant. Mostly expenses are what's improving where we're at cash-wise. So we're currently about 69% of actual on revenue versus the budget of 67%, so about 5% higher on revenue than what we had expected. Half of that increase on revenue is enrollment. So the budget for this year was 540, and based on the average from January count, we're at 550. So 10 more students at 11,385 a student is about half of that revenue explanation. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions or comment on that? Sounds like overall positive news. All right, the next item on our agenda is a discussion on the One Campus project.
Happy to share. Just a bit of an update. We are in regular communication with representatives of multiple possible locations. And as we continue our pursuit of the various options, we are also working on balancing our need to have a permanent long-term location with the financial and logistical realities that are inherent in that process. We are working with Excel Engineering, designing site programming and finalizing materials with Baird to be ready when the time is right to proceed with financing. And as things progress, we will communicate if there is need for LCCA community members to attend any type of public hearing or meeting, because we know that we can count on LCCA parents and friends should that public support be helpful.
Any follow-ups on that? Okay, moving along. All right, so we have an action item here related to the retirement plan committee appointment of Randy. Is it appropriate for me to give an overview to this, or do you want to?
Sure,
No, go for it. I think that was a good idea.
So as you know, we do have a retirement plan committee who manages the fiduciary responsibilities and oversight of the retirement plan that we offer to employees, and that committee meets quarterly. And with the shift of Tom to interim presidency, it seemed appropriate that maybe he would roll off of that committee, and having new membership to the board, and with his background in finances, etc., it seemed right that Randy might engage in that way. So I made the request if he would be willing, and he happily agreed. So the resolution would be to approve or adopt Randy taking on a committee position while Tom rolls off.
So this is a make a motion
This
situation.
is a make a motion to, yes, to approve the resolution.
All right, would anybody like to make a motion to approve this board resolution, moving Randy onto this very important committee?
Sure. I motion to approve the resolution, board resolution, thank you, of having Randy Gotzel be on the retirement plan committee at LCCA.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Let's vote. All in favor?
You good with that?
What?
I'm not allowed to vote, I'm assuming?
Probably not.
You're
yeah.
recused.
Yeah.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Stacy. Anybody opposed? Nay? All right, you guys have it.
Thank you.
Motion.
I'll get your signatures on that tonight.
You're welcome.
I'm not, just gonna keep moving. Just gonna keep moving. All right, so the next item is the board development.
Yes, can you do
It's
me
a-
a favor and open that document?
Absolutely.
Alright, so, we're just gonna keep this going in terms of having a small section
A
for.
recurring kind of.
Recurring, yes, professional development, discussion for board governance each meeting, so last month, there are basically 4 areas of best practice. The Hillsdale College best practices for K-12 schools in governance specifically, and last month we talked about character of the board. This time around, the next section in here is discussing policies, which are board-specific policies, how the board does its work, and this is all, by the way, I don't know if anyone else brought their, we have this binder for every board member, Stacy and I are going to be updating this next month. And for those who have it, and creating it for board members that do not have this yet, because this has been kind of a project on the back burner, just that has everything in it that you need in terms of board policy, our charter, anything that you might need to know in terms of as board members that we should be aware of on a regular basis, open meetings, law compliance, etc. So within board policy, so these are strictly board policies that they're referring to. They list a couple here that we should have in place, which most of them we do. Conflict of interest policy that we assign each year, board management delegation policy, which means how the board communicates with the school leader and school administration. We have that in place. We call it the board linkage policy. And these policies, by the way, are in board docs in the policy section if anyone in the school community would like to see them. Also, board member term limitation policy, that's actually part of our bylaws right now, we have that in there. Compliance policies, these policies outline the board and school statutory, regulatory, and contractual compliance. So that's something we need to look into if we need any more of those. Nepotism policy, we have that in our bylaws. Financial oversight policies, which we have the accounting policies and procedures document that Brian and Margaret and Lori have worked on. And also non-discrimination policy, which we also have in our bylaws. So there are a bunch more board policies that we really need to create still, and I've done a little bit of research on just looking at other Hillsdale schools and what they have created, and so I'd like to propose that we have sometime in April another board meeting, probably a virtual open meeting that anyone could listen in if they wanted to discuss a series of board policies that need to be approved. A lot of them are very, they're not really long, but they're just how the board does its work and things that we should have in place that really define that lane of board governance. So more to come on that, but other thing I wanted to mention regarding board policy, because actually just this relates to all this, and the question just came up from a parent today to the board about why do we have a board policy on, we call it a no action until the policy. And so I wanted to point this out because this was actually, one second here. Make sure I'm looking at the right thing. Yes, here we are. Okay. So at Hillsdale College, we base all of our policies, all of our governance, our work is all based off of the model that Hillsdale provides to us. We go to board training a couple times a year, well, we can up to 2 times a year. We can their best practices. And this whole concept of having a no action until policy came from board training. First time I went was spring of 2019. Taryn, I don't remember if you went to that one or not. But that was the very first board training I went to. Were you there, Taryn? Maybe not. Can't remember. Okay. So anyway, when I went, I know a couple other board members were there. There was someone that presented named Brian Carpenter, and he presented this whole thing on governance, charter schools, effective charter school governance. And he suggested that we have this policy. I'm just going to read this, and it's actually, this is also in everyone's board binders. I put this whole document in there. So why do we have this policy in place? So he said in here, people will stop circumventing the leader, the school leader, as soon as the board prohibits them from doing so. And it says, I'll just read this verbatim. Do a handful of parents, staff members, or others frequently complain to your board or do some of its individual members without first having gone to the school leader? In charter schools, this occurs when the board allows people to bring their complaints or concerns directly to it, or even worse, to individual board members behind the school leader's back. In an environment like this, school leaders tend to not last long in the position. Who would? The message the board is sending to the school community and the leader is, we have no confidence in our leader's ability to resolve issues, so feel free to circumvent him or her whenever you like. Be forewarned though, boards that do this subject their schools to constant leadership turnover, which not surprisingly usually leads to poor performance. A better course of action is to adopt what I call a no action until policy. Essentially, this is a policy that states that the board won't take action on any matter until the person has first taken the concern to the school leader. So the reality is that 99.9% of the time, the leader can resolve the complaint or address the concern when individuals are required to take it directly to him or her. So that is essentially the reason behind that policy. So any questions about any of that?
No. Any questions or discussion? Makes sense. Stacy, I know it's difficult when you're.
Yeah. We'll make sure this is in. I'll make sure everyone gets a copy of this document because it's really helpful.
Do we have Scott by chance?
Do those join us?
The two things that pop for me with policies is one, I think it's a good idea to kind of do that inventory in an open session. The two things that pop for me is where are our gaps? It sounds like as you're walking through there, you're like, we have this, we sort of might have this, we don't have this, we have this, we have this.
Right.
What are those gaps? And then the second thing is, sometimes it's easy to get caught up in policy, so are there policies that are redundant? Like, are we trying to do the same thing in two different policies? Just kind of, I never really gave the policies a hard look to make sure that we ferret out any redundancies. Those are the two things that pop for me, but I think it's prudent. Thank you for walking through that. You would explain that to me early on, but to hear it from the source is helpful.
So the other thing I'd say, so at the same time that we're reviewing and adding policy, I think we also need to review our bylaws, because there's some things in the bylaws that we may want to change or tweak, and we may see something in the bylaws, so, we don't need to create a policy on that because it's already in there, so we're preventing that redundancy, which I think is a good point. So, we'll kind of be doing those simultaneously in April. That's all.
Any other comment or discussion on that? Thank you, Christine. And I believe, I'm looking at our agenda, I think that concludes our agenda for tonight, unless I'm missing something. Does that sound right?
Yep.
So, at this point, ask for a motion to adjourn.
Ask for a motion to.
Oh, because we're going in closed session. All right. Anybody want to make a motion to move into a closed session for Wisconsin State Statute 19.851E to discuss the purchasing of public properties for which competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session? Anybody want to make a motion to move into that closed session?
A motion to close. I'll second.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. We vote. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. We're moving to closed session. Thank you very much, everybody. It's great to see everybody.